This is the Dive Into Discovery podcast, where curiosity meets insight, and every conversation uncovers a new layer of understanding.
Welcome to today's Dive Into Discovery. We're your hosts, Theo and Alex.
And today we're taking a deep dive into a topic that's both scientifically fascinating and ethically complex.
Human cloning.
Exactly. It's something that often feels like science fiction, but the truth is,
Oh, it's definitely not sci-fi anymore.
we've been navigating the world of mammalian cloning for decades now.
And it all really kind of exploded onto the scene, right?
Absolutely.
With Dolly the sheep back in '96.
Dolly, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just a scientific breakthrough.
Huge news.
It was a global event. I mean, cloning, which had always been this, thing of the imagination,
Right.
suddenly became real.
Yeah, it was a real wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people. Scientists, ethicists, the public suddenly had to confront this possibility of human cloning head on.
Like, whoa, this is actually happening.
And it really fueled, all these debates about the ethics of it all.
Debates that are still going strong, by the way. But, it's important to remember, right? We're not talking about just one thing when we say cloning.
Right.
There are actually two main types.
Yeah, two distinct types.
With very different goals.
Reproductive cloning and then therapeutic cloning.
Exactly. So reproductive cloning, that's the one everyone thinks of, right?
The one that, makes a genetically identical copy of a person.
A carbon copy human, like, whoa!
Exactly.
But then there's therapeutic cloning.
Right.
And that's focused on using cloned embryos to get stem cells.
To derive those stem cells, exactly.
And those stem cells have such huge potential for treating all kinds of diseases.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you think about Parkinson's, spinal cord injuries.
Growing new organs.
That's the big one, right?
I mean, can you imagine a world where organ rejection is just not a thing?
That's the hope.
It could completely revolutionize medicine as we know it.
The promise is incredible.
And it's a big but.
Mm-hmm.
The ethical concerns are substantial.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about manipulating human life
At its core.
at its most basic level.
It's no small thing.
No. And that's why, a lot of religious groups, they see any kind of cloning
Yeah.
as playing God.
As interfering with, the natural order
Right.
of life and death.
And even outside of religion, there are all these ethical dilemmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
What about the psychology of a clone?
Right, yeah.
Knowing that you're a genetic replica of somebody else.
It really makes you question, what does identity even mean in that context?
And then there's genetic diversity,
Yeah.
which is so important for a species to be strong, to adapt, to survive.
Right. Could widespread cloning make us more vulnerable?
Could it?
To disease, to changes in the environment?
That's kind of scary to think about, actually.
It's a potential consequence that we can't ignore.
And we haven't even talked about the technical challenge.
The actual science of it.
I mean, the tech is far from perfect, right?
It's not a smooth process at all.
And we've seen with animal cloning,
Yeah.
the success rates are low. And a lot of the cloned animals, they have health problems.
Absolutely.
That's a big red flag to be
Yeah.
cautious.
We can't just jump into human cloning without really understanding what we're getting into.
And then there's that whole designer baby debate.
Right.
Imagine parents picking and choosing the traits they want for their cloned children.
It's a whole other level of ethical dilemmas.
Genetic manipulation,
Yeah.
social inequalities. I mean, it's a slippery slope.
Oh, for sure.
It's no wonder that, over 70 countries
At least 70, yeah.
have banned human reproductive cloning.
Including the U.S. and most of Europe. It's just too risky.
Too ethically complex.
Yeah.
Speaking of ethics, we should talk about cloning in agriculture.
Right, because it might seem like a separate issue, but a lot of those same ethical concerns come up.
Animal welfare, unintended consequences.
Absolutely. When the focus is on efficiency and productivity,
Like it often is in industrial farming.
it's easy to overlook the ethics of cloning animals. It's almost like we're treating life as a commodity,
Right.
and that's a dangerous path to go down.
It's a good reminder that this cloning conversation, it's not just about humans.
No, it's much broader than that.
It's about all forms of life.
Yeah.
But okay, let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about one of the most promising applications of this technology,
Growing organs.
organ cloning.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
Imagine a future where we don't have organ transplant waiting lists anymore,
More waiting.
where we can just grow a new organ perfectly matched to the patient,
It's credible, right? No more organ rejection.
saving lives.
Countless lives.
But of course, it brings us right back to those fundamental ethical questions
Oh, yeah.
about creating human life.
Even if it's just an organ.
Exactly. I mean, would we even consider growing a heart for transplant? Would that be human cloning?
That's a good question. I mean, even if it's not a whole person, right?
Yeah. Right. Where's the line between, like, growing tissues for medicine and actually creating a human life?
It's tricky.
It is. And even if, you somehow figured out that ethical puzzle, then what?
Yeah.
Who's making sure these cloned organs are being used the right way?
That's the big one.
Not being exploited. Yeah.
Regulation, oversight.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes science just moves so much
It's
faster
way faster.
than our ethics,
It's like we're playing catch up.
We got to have these conversations now
Absolutely.
before it's too late.
Yeah, before the technology gets so far ahead of us that we lose control,
Exactly.
Speaking of tech that's moving fast,
Oh, yeah.
we gotta talk about CRISPR.
CRISPR, gene editing. I mean,
It's like the ultimate genetic toolbox, right?
it is.
Scientists can literally edit DNA sequences.
It's amazing.
It is, but it's also, kind of terrifying.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's like Pandora's box.
Right.
We're opening it up,
Mm.
and who knows what's going to come out.
And when you combine CRISPR, with cloning,
Oh, wow.
creating identical copies,
It's like everything we've been talking about,
it gets amplified.
the good and the bad.
Exactly. The potential benefits, the risks, they all get bigger.
So, like, you could use CRISPR, right, to fix genetic diseases in clones.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine a world where you could just get rid of inherited diseases before they even happen.
That would be incredible.
It would.
But then, there's the flip side.
Yeah.
CRISPR could be used to enhance clones.
Right. Make them stronger, smarter,
Yeah.
Whatever someone decides is desirable.
It's like, who gets to decide that?
Exactly. It's a really slippery slope.
What kind of society are we creating when we start manipulating human genetics?
Right. It's a huge question.
And with CRISPR and cloning together, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of power.
A lot of power to reshape humanity, for better or for worse.
And then there are synthetic embryos. I mean, have you heard about this?
Yeah, this is where it gets even weirder, right?
It's like blurring the lines between natural and artificial even more.
Because these are embryos created in a lab, but without using sperm or eggs.
Whoa.
They kind of mimic cloning.
So it's like, are we creating new life forms here?
It really makes you question, what is life?
What does it even mean?
And what are the ethics of creating something that's never existed before?
It's mind-blowing.
It is.
But, okay, in the middle of all this, mind-blowing science and ethics, what are people actually thinking about all this?
Public opinion is actually kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So surveys show that more people support therapeutic cloning.
The medical stuff.
Yeah. But when it comes to reproductive cloning,
Making actual copies of people.
most people are still very uncomfortable with that idea.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to cure diseases,
Yeah.
but messing with the very essence of what makes us human,
It's a different story.
it is.
It seems like, people want to help others, but they also feel like there are some lines you just don't cross. But the conversation's not over.
No.
As this technology keeps changing, we need to keep talking about it.
Openly and honestly.
About the good and the bad.
What could go right? What could go wrong?
Because it's not just up to the scientists, right?
No.
It's up to all of us.
Ethicists, policymakers, the public.
We all have a say in how this unfolds.
It's kind of a lot of pressure.
It is, but it's also, kind of exciting.
I guess so.
It's like this whole cloning thing, it's not just about science, right? It's making us question what it means to be human.
Our place in the world.
Are we going too far?
Are we playing God?
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
It's funny, right, how we use all this, mythological language. Playing God, Pandora's box. Like, we're not really sure how to talk about it.
Right.
When science does stuff that feels unnatural.
It's like, what does natural even mean anymore?
Exactly. Like, what does it even mean to be human? When we're blurring the lines between, real and artificial.
Yeah, good point. Which actually brings us back to something we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Remember organ cloning?
Oh, yeah. Growing organs.
What if we could perfect that?
Okay, yeah.
So we don't need human donors anymore.
Interesting.
No more transplant waiting lists.
Right.
All these ethical issues, gone.
So you're thinking, would that change how people feel about cloning?
Exactly. If we're just growing an organ to save a life, would people be more okay with it?
I mean, it's possible, right?
Yeah.
You're ending organ shortages, you're saving lives.
It's hard to argue with that.
It is.
But even then,
Yeah.
would everyone be comfortable?
That's the thing, right?
Like some people might still say, no matter what,
Yeah.
creating human life, even just an organ that's crossing a line.
It's like, yeah, you can do it.
But should you?
Exactly.
It makes you think about what's really right and wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally. Like, it's not just about whether something's helpful.
Right.
There are some things that just feel wrong.
And those are tough conversations to have.
They are, but we need to have them.
We do.
Listen to different viewpoints.
Except that there might not be one right answer for everyone.
Exactly. Because this is bigger than just science, you know?
It is.
It's about what kind of future we want.
What kind of world we're building.
And that's a decision we all have to make together.
It's been a fascinating dive, to say the least.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we've gone from Dolly the sheep
Right.
to gene editing to synthetic embryos.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But, you know, it all comes down to this.
What's it?
We have these powerful technologies,
Mhm.
cloning, gene editing. It's up to us to decide how we use them
Wisely.
ethically
Yeah.
for good.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Mhm.
we'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
What kind of future do we want to create?
It's a good question.
One worth pondering.
Definitely.
What did you think of this week's episode? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to join us next time as we dive even deeper. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what discoveries are just around the corner.